Welcome to the First Minister's Questions Review, and this week the regular team are joined by Rob Munn, former Deputy Lord Provost of this fair city of Edinburgh. Usual guests are Norman Stewart, Philip Attridge, Sunday names here.
Phil Attridge, and of course.
And my name is Stuart Lockhead. So today, gentlemen, we had a rather different FMQs, did we not? And focused almost entirely on cancer. Let's start with you, Norrie, with your first reactions.
Oh, it was all grown up. They seem to have got basically out the habit of jumping up and down and screaming like banshees for the second week in a row. I thought Joanne performed quite well. It's one of those funny issues that she brought up, though. I mean, is Alex Salmond expected to go around to everybody's house and discuss their medication with them? You know, there's a system in place that they are in the throes of reviewing to make it better. But this cancer drug fund thing, which isn't being a great success down south, and there are issues with it, with postcode and so on, but she hammered away at it. But from my point of view of how people behave in Parliament and how grown up they are, much better this week, better last week, and much better this week.
Okay, Phil, what did you think? Generally.
Yeah, I really generally thought the same. It was very, very grown up. There wasn't any snide personal remarks or anything else. And I think Salmond could have really diffused it on basically agreeing with her, and that's why we got. I mean, what win there was. I mean, yeah, she was just being actually acting like the leader of the opposition. Yeah, I thought it was actually very good.
Well,
I thought it was a refreshing change from what we've become used to, which is a series of name-calling arguments and rising temperature and rising voices. It actually sounded like a mature debate in a parliament that was taking an issue seriously, and perhaps it was partially because of the issue they were discussing. It was predominantly today was dominated by questions on the treatment of cancer and access to cancer drugs that meant that the tone was down, and there was actually a debate in questions rather than assertion, counter-assertion, name-calling and confrontation. So I think in terms of the Parliament, I think anybody looking in would see something that was measured and respectful, despite one or two little digs in there politically. But I much prefer it, I think, when I see the First Minister attempting to answer the questions as best he can without turning up the volume and getting to the slanging match. But the same goes for Joanne Manor. She doggedly kept on at the First Minister, but she too didn't turn up the volume or turn it into attacks, which has been her line.
It's an interesting, slightly different structure as well this week, because we didn't hear from Willie Rennie, but we did hear from Patrick Harvey, and also the presiding officer made a bit of a statement saying she wanted things to take quite a lot of background questions, and she wanted quick answers and quick questions. So in that sense, the structure was slightly different than usual.
It was strange because, I mean, a lot of it, the questions really weren't of substance in the sense that you could attack the government, because the health question, I mean, the government's got a review going on at the moment. They must know that.
The Routledge review, it's called.
The transport one, okay, well, this time of year that's always going to come up. But then Edie went on to ask about pavements and cycleways. When was that the remit of the Scottish Government? That's a council.
I think he just wanted to get a bit of a shout out for the inner tube map, which most people will find an arcane thing. But
No. In the tube match, I think he was just a tube. A waste of parliamentary time. We could have got a reasonable. We could have got a question with a bit of depth that actually meant something to people rather than ice on pavements.
Well, the only question that came up that I was expecting was Patrick Harvey asking about the effects of the budget in Scotland. Now, admittedly, there's not been a lot of time between the announcements and today to come up with, solid ground to start attacking the Scottish Government. I mean, you're going to have to wait till they actually decide what they're going to do with the money they've been given. But it was all kind of very flat and nicey. I preferred it from the point of view, as you say, how people would view it from outside. It was a bit boring.
Yeah.
The one,
Dull almost.
the quote as well, which for the
Oh, yeah, let's have the quote.
which was the economic bloodletting, as he was all standing there in black, looking like
Patrick
he was going
Harvey,
to
yeah.
a funeral. Patrick
Describing
Harvey, I
the
thought
budget.
was- yeah, I thought it was
on
very
budget.
good. Well, that's it, because of the tenor of the debate, that came out better. I mean, it came out as, yeah, that's good. So you can actually appreciate it when somebody is slightly
Of course, the question arises, now that there's a new grouping of 5 independents, well, 2 Greens and 3 independents, and including Patrick Harvey, does this mean there's going to be a question from that grouping every week?
Well, you would think they could argue, because Liberals are fine. So do we, as we said earlier, do we get Willie one week and Patrick the next?
Yeah.
I think Patrick Harvey would be
Much better than Willie.
a much more interesting, because although he supports independence, there's an awful lot of the SNP
He's much more left-wing
manifesto
than
that
the
he's
typical
going to
left
chip away
SNP.
at. So from that point of view, I think that could be much more interesting. And he's going to look an awful lot more left-wing on some issues than the Labour Party.
That would be too difficult.
You know?
That's very true.
So,
challenge.
plus it allows the NATO stance to be debated, and green issues. I mean, what was it he actually brought up? I can't remember.
But today,
Yeah,
well, effectively,
because he got up and was quite nice, and then his supplementary had a bit of a barb in it, didn't it?
yes, he's talking about corporation tax. Because the
That's
suggestion
what it
is
is.
at the moment it's supposedly SNP policy to get the powers over corporation tax devolved and to reduce it to attract investment.
Well, he's
foreign
looking at
investment.
the Irish sort of question, and if you think on the weekend, I was talking to an Irishwoman at housewarming I was at, and if you're in the UK, if you talk, in Ireland, if you go and visit your GP, it costs you €50.
What's that?
To go and visit your GP. €50. So, yeah,
Dearie me, I can't afford to go there then.
that's where hence we need some of this money coming in with a reasonable rate of tax to pay for services for people that live there.
Well, let's try.
Well, that's the first. I mean, Patrick, that's the first mention of the progressive tax subject that I've heard in the Scottish
Well, I
Parliament.
wasn't, I wasn't
Nobody
quite,
else talks about it.
yeah, I wasn't quite sure how to summarise what Alex Salmond said in reply. He seemed to more or less, he was saying about redistribution, I think was really what he was trying to say, that whatever the tax system would be in a Scottish government, given the freedom to choose, that an SNP government would focus on redistribution as well.
Yeah, I mean, what Alec was saying is that he wants a just society, and what he means by that is a redistributive tax system where people pay the tax they're due, whatever that
Which is a progressive tax system.
which is progressive, and it is SNP policy to have a lower corporation tax for the reasons we've discussed in attract investment, and that's something that the Greens do not support. But Alex's view was you can create wealth as long as you've got a tax system that redistributes, then you create
Yeah, that was the answer.
the
Correct.
social democratic
Well,
system that
there's
that
the other
SNP
interesting
wants.
twist with Patrick Harvey being involved. You now have the opportunity for him to ask sound questions about what the future in an independent Scotland will be, which none of the other parties will do.
I see what you mean.
So,
That's a good point.
Harvey can create a platform for the Yes campaign in Parliament, if you like, simply by what he chooses to ask.
Well, that is what's missing in debate everywhere, and it's particularly here because we have an Americanized view of tax now. Very much, we've been very, very corrupted, is the word I'd use, by the Americans. Don't mention tax, can't mention. You'll lose votes, you'll lose votes. And have a look at the new government in France, 75%. They don't think twice about it. We're going to have, there's screams and shouts, but then they end up going to pay it. Go to Scandinavia, which we look to be aligning ourselves with in our culture. They think nothing of paying up to about 60% of their income in various taxes. And then they get the services back. So you actually get it back in another way, and you have a more coherent society.
Well, let's see if we can. And we've only got two main leaders, two main opposition leaders' performances. Let's try and get some performance ratings. All right.
I'm going to score Joanne high. She kind of seemed to bite her lip at one point. I think she did kind of want to kick off. But I mean, from the point of view of the perception of people looking into the Parliament outside, that was a much better day, and Joanne was a big part of that. So I'm going to score her quite well this week. I'm going to give her 6 out of 10. Ruth, I don't understand why they end up asking about the same subject. I don't know why Ruth can't pick another subject.
Sorry, no imagination.
But they do it.
Plus, it's NHS is very dodgy for the Tories because Alex can always turn around and say, "Well, you're cutting it, you're killing it in England."
Yeah. So I mean, but she didn't do anything nasty. She didn't do a nasty comment that
That's true.
she was at last
Think
week.
Her and Joanne had a cup of coffee and a blether before they came in.
I'm going to give her a 4 anyway.
Whoa!
Which is
That's
no,
very
I've
generous.
scored Ruth well in the past because she used to be the one that made Joanne look like an idiot. Willie Rennie gets nil because he wasn't there. I'm going to score Patrick Harvey because I think she's going to become quite important in what
Especially
actually
if you get
gets
regular
aired.
questions, aye.
If that group is now recognised and he gets his question every couple of weeks, that
We
could
could
be
get
very,
Margot.
well, it could be very important.
Yeah, we could alternate it.
We could get Margot spokesperson.
And I'm going to give him, actually I'm going to give him a 7 because he touched 2 subjects and I quite liked the way he did it. He was quite nice to Alex and then he had to re-stab at him and just underline the fact that the Greens are different.
Yeah, that's good. Phil.
Joanne, well, I'll be a bit more generous, yeah, because it was really quite good. She must have been listening to or read Henry McLeish's bit about behaving yourself in the no-name calling, because there wasn't any of that petty stuff. And I thought it was good. It was actually good listening to the leader of the opposition not impersonate a well-known comic character. But yeah, so I'd actually give her more than I thought. She did her job very effectively as leader of the opposition, so I'll actually give her an 8. Yeah. Ruth, God, I mean she's a Tory, so I mean that's it. I've got to sort of sit on the prejudice. But then, and she wasn't nasty, everything else. But sorry, the insincerity of Tories just pours out. Doesn't it?
Yes, you have a problem with that all the time.
Yeah, but they're just so insincere. I mean, the word hypocrites come to mind, pointing out for what they don't give 2 monkeys about. So I'll give her 1 for turning up. Patrick Harvey, I thought he was actually good. It sounds interesting, so yeah, I'll give him a 6.
We'll come back to Alex after we move to everyone else.
Yeah, I'll give him a 6. So that would be fine. Yeah.
Rob?
Yeah, I thought Joanne Lamont was much better sticking to policy instead of playing the person, which has been her main objective for weeks. She picks a subject, but she's not really interested in the subject. It's having to vote the First Minister, and she kept away from that today. I think she dealt with a very serious issue that does require debate in the Scottish Parliament and some sort of cross-party consensus. Whether we get it from the Tories, I don't know, but to find a way forward that improves the situation over access to cancer drugs. So on that basis, that she kept the attack dogs off, and there was a kind of sensible exchange between her and the First Minister this week. I think I'll give her a 7. I think it might be the highest I've ever given her. Ruth Davidson, I really wasn't impressed. I think because she kind of followed on the same subject and didn't bring any more light to it, and in fact, as she usually does, opens the door up to Alec to
Refer to England.
refer to England and chip in with a little bit of information that he didn't reveal when he was having the exchanges with Joanne, that there are problems within England and that the Cancer Drugs Fund there is a temporary measure. So we have to bring in a temporary measure with Scotland called where we wanted to go, and that's what the review hopefully will come out with, or what will come out after the review, is where do we go with dealing with this issue in a longer term. So I think
Want to score, Patrick?
And Patrick, I'd like to see him make more contributions, and I hope that the opportunity will be there for him to make more contributions. And I think as somebody, obviously I support the Yes campaign as well. I come from a left position within the SNP. I'm interested in the issues that he can raise, and the way he did it today I think was intelligent, because it gave the Greens' view of where we might end up as an independent Scotland, and it didn't get into any argy-bargy. He made a point, and there is an issue about whether or not you support real corporation tax and the taxation system would work in an independent Scotland. So I'll give him points for raising that issue through his introductory question about the autumn statement. So a 6. I'll see how he gets on. But I hope we hear more from him or that new grouping, because I think they can raise questions that will be of more interest in terms of the policy issues around independence and the SNP, rather than what we've had up until to date from Labour, the Lib Dems and the Tories, which is a kind of unionist attack at the SNP. We might get a wee bit more light from this new independent Green group.
Let me see. Alex will come to last, of course. Joanne, I have to agree, Joanne did rather well today, and it was still unfortunate that they were banging the desks when the backbenchers when they thought she'd scored a goal, which was really a shame.
School kids.
Bang, bang, bang. Even applause is bad enough, because apparently you're not supposed to applaud in the War Parliament. So I'll give Joanne 6. Ruth, well, because she wasn't rude, I normally give her 0, and there's really not much more I can add to her performance, other than I was disappointed that she followed into the NHS cancer drugs issue. I'll give her 2. Patrick, I'm very pleased to hear him speak. I've got Green sympathies a lot of the time myself, and certainly from his left-wing perspective is more attuned to where I am on most issues. But hopefully we'll hear more of him in the future, and this wasn't just a one-off, a backbencher's question. I thought he was very good. It's difficult to give him. I'll give him a 6, because it's better than average. So he was definitely better than average. I'll give Alex his first score of today's session. Let's see. He wasn't particularly exciting. He wasn't particularly statesmanlike. He was patient. He didn't lose his temper. He was struggling to some extent with difficult questions. He was thinking and answering at the same time, because you could tell this. How should I present my arguments and my answers to this difficult issue? Because I don't want to come across as uncaring. So I'm going to give him 7. Nori, what did you think of Alex as well?
Well, I've written down an 8, because it was difficult. Because there just isn't an answer. I mean, they're in the middle of a process, and it was really a plea for that process to be allowed to continue. And if you've got input, give us the input. Don't simply criticise us. If you think there's a better way, input that. And that's not, obviously, oppositions don't want to do that. What they want to do is criticise what's happening. So I thought he dealt with it quite well. Last week and this week, I didn't feel that he was completely confident. He's much more confident on a black and white issue, which this wasn't. Mm-hmm. So I think a 7, because he's still in a different league, I'm sorry. Although...
Well, he didn't look so much in a different league today, I don't think.
I was about to say, although I think Joanne's on the bench now, there's a chance she might get put for the first team if she continues to behave herself.
Phil, Alex?
I thought he did very well. Disappointed in the sense that he could have not undermined, but taken a lot of the wind out of Joanne's sails by saying, especially when she came up, that it's costing somebody £1,700 week to get, some things which were actually, I know how you could present things, but the whole point is, if somebody's paying £1,700, they are. The fact that the Scottish NHS is charging them a fee, little things like that, which people will remember, or that's the kind of thing. So he could have just said, you're right, and that kind of situation is wrong, and that's one of the things that they'll be looking at. He could have kind of agreed with it to a certain extent, which should do it. So for that reason, I'll actually give him the same as Joanne. I'll give him an 8.
Well, Alex.
Well, I thought, I said earlier on that I much prefer him when he remains calm, and he was given the reasons, one, with it being a very serious issue, and two, the approach to the other leaders. He didn't get riled this week. So, as I say, I prefer to see him like that, being more conciliatory to the others, rather than just turning up the volume and lambasting them, which we have had to witness in the past. However, it does have the tendency to come over a bit kind of flat as a watcher. But there was some policy there this time which we're not always lucky to see. So I think because he wasn't really bothered, I don't think anybody asked him anything that he couldn't answer, and he attempted to be conciliatory when he could have turned up the volume and had a go at either Joanne or moved over some of the things.
I'm trying to predict what he's going to come out with.
So I'm tempted to mark him high, but given he wasn't really tested, I feel I can't. So I think I'm going to go for an 8. So I draw with Joanne.
Well, I have to say, I mean, to me, it was a very different FMQs, generally speaking. And perhaps we can look forward to more of the same.
It would be nice, and as I say, if Patrick Harvey, or Patrick Harvey's group, more accurately, is going to get to ask a question every other week, that changes the balance of power question time, and that could be something to look forward to.
It's informative. It's informative as well, because it might even get more people looking at it if they can actually watch it instead of just watching what has up to now been a bunch of, it's like a school or a college debating system about slapping. Something a bit more grown up. Yeah,
well, thank you very much, gentlemen. That was a different FMQs. Thank you.